We all have the power to slow down and make conscious, meaningful decisions that can not only improve our personal lives, but that can change the world. Inspiration is everywhere. It's never been so easy to connect, share, and bring people together. We're learning from others and finding the best in ourselves, challenging our beliefs, sharing our vulnerability, overcoming our fears, transforming ourselves. What if all of a sudden you discovered your potential and purpose? I'm Jason McHugh at The Good Life.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jen Chikuda. I was one of the hosts of the first Goodliife event, which took place 1 year ago. Today, I have the privilege of interviewing Jason McHugh, the founder of The Goodliife. Today, I will be unpacking the mindset of this incredible entrepreneur, athlete, and overcomer. So welcome, Jay, and thank you for giving me the privilege today of interviewing you. So today marks the anniversary of two significant events. Can you please describe to me the first event, which was marked by June 25th?
The first mark of June 25th would be the day, it's 19 years on June 25th. My accident that I had with downhill mountain biking, I had a significant injury to my spinal cord, C5 infraction, causing me to be paralyzed from the waist down.
Thank you. And I know that, 18 years later, you chose to have a new anniversary on June 25th. Can you tell me a little bit more about why you chose to have the Goodliife event as another anniversary on June 25th?
Yeah, I chose to launch the Goodliife brand to more or less to elaborate on how life can change, and then while accepting your story and overcoming by loving yourself again and being able to accepting blame and taking ownership of your own injury and not blaming anybody else.
Yes, and I appreciate you sharing that because I know that that is something that my husband Robson and I have admired about you. And though in my nursing career I've come across several people with life-shattering injuries, you stood out to us because of what you said, where you have this capacity to own your story, take ownership for the decisions that led to the situation, which, correct me, you can correct me if I'm wrong here, that has been a huge gateway towards your own healing and becoming a very successful individual.
Yeah, that's true. Once I was able to truly embrace it again and love myself, because before that I used to always blame and ask, why me? But until I accepted it and took ownership of it, then I felt more at peace and peace of mind and more happy.
Thank you so much. So let's go back a little bit further into history just to learn more about you. Can you share with me, what is your favorite childhood memory?
My favorite childhood memory would be most of the things that growing up with, through parenthood with my dad, my brothers, and family. That they gave us the leisures to do anything that we believed in or wanted to do. My dad, he worked really hard to just give us the means to have the best leisures and that we wanted to do, participate in, fishing, hunting, even having motorbikes when we were young, and then participating in any sport that I thought I was able or had the capacity to do.
so much. And I know that we often will speak about the importance to protect the family unit. And I appreciate you sharing that, because so much of what you've been able to share about your childhood is the impact that, having a mother and a father that spoke into you and had such an incredible ability to sow their values into you is something that I know we often talk about is an extremely important thing to hold on to today. So thank you very much. What would you say is your biggest failure, and what did you learn from that experience?
I think my biggest failure growing up, which probably took part in some even my own injury, was that just wanting to be part of more of acceptance and in certain people, and then when I realized if I could go back in time and change those things, would be like just more or less be more in an individual person and not really trying to fit into social norms or people that really didn't have the best outcome for me.
Thank you so much. And I know that we often talk about how a value that we want to live by is to make decisions through our values specifically and not to conform to societal norms. And so thank you so much for sharing that. So Jason, if you could be remembered for one thing, what would it be?
If I can be remembered for one thing, it would be if I can impact 12 people. I think the impact of impacting 12 people would go under the Metcalfe law. That for the I think the math equation is m2 squared under Robert Metcalfe. He said if you can impact 12 people, the connections would be a significant of 66 people. So I would impact more than 66 people, and those 66 people would impact many more people. So if I can impact 12 people in the world, that would be what I would want to be remembered as.
You could have coffee with any historical figure. Who would that be, Jason?
If I would have the choice to, it would be Jesus. If I could have coffee with anybody, or actually have the privilege to meet the most significant person in history, it would be Jesus.
And can you share a little bit more as to why?
Because of my faith, and I think he would be almost, as a mentor, he would be the best mentor of all time.
I agree. Thank you. If you had to write a book tomorrow, what would you write this book about?
If I had the privilege of writing a book, which probably one day I might do, but it would be perseverance of life.
Great. Thank you. I don't think that requires explaining. I think you're a representation of that. What is a common myth about your field of expertise, Jason?
The common myth of my expertise is understanding decentralization and the working out of the societal norms that we've been told. Go to school, get a good job, build a family, buy a house, and then leverage that system with credit. My myth is that people don't understand mostly is the opposite. It's like flipping the iceberg, where you plan your lifestyle. You plan your lifestyle first instead of having a plan. So it's basically the societal norms teach us to go this way. It's plan, which is your job, sacrifice, association, lifestyle. My expertise is flipping the iceberg the opposite way, is where you plan your lifestyle, your association, sacrifice, then the plan will fall into place.
Thank you. And I would agree with you that I just think that anytime that we hear something that is outside of what we've been taught, then the first reaction is to think that it must be a scam, or it must be pyramidal, or it must be unstable, when in fact, I know that you have talked a lot, Robson and I knew about the reality that choosing the way that we want to live, choosing a life, choosing a calling and a lifestyle first, it's the most logical route. It's just not what we're taught. So thank you, and I appreciate you
Yeah,
saying
that's
that.
exactly it. We weren't taught, and there's a reason that we weren't taught that. The educational system wants us to be, and the system alone wants us to be, workers and not thinkers. So, and taken away from being in a free enterprise world. It's where we should all, and there's a reason that it was structured that way, and because and even in the educational system, they don't even teach you how to be financially successful or even be an entrepreneur.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. And I think that there are always layers to that. I know that you and I are both, we've talked about being grateful for any kind of educational source, but yes, having a sense that somehow just a degree or a slip of paper can ensure a long-term outcome, whether it's success in any fashion or financials, it's just not factual. All of those factors are determined by our association, also determined by who we're running with ultimately. And I like the fact that you are able to articulate the fact that just because, things seem common, it doesn't mean that it is the best route for us to take, which ties us back to the folks that you have found the most impact and influence from. Every one of them had to go against the grain. They had to go against societal norms, and they had to stand out for a season in order to show us what was possible. So thank you. So Jason, who has been your most impactful business mentor?
My biggest impactful mentor in the last 3 years would be Dean Whalen. Dean Whalen is my biggest mentor right now, and he's actually helped me to grow, to have a different mindset. So, and I run in life with him and everybody in his within my business and my closest friends.
Thank you. And what are the qualities? Like if nobody, like if I had not met him, which I have, and I admire him equally, but if I had not met him before and I were to ask you, like, well, what sets him apart? Like, what is it about him that would make you pursue him?
He sets apart from, I do see myself in him a lot. And I think when the first time I got to meet him at a talk that he was doing was basically his way to articulate information and then put it on a broader scale to actually help people understand through structures and systems. When you have systems in place, you can actually become very successful in life.
Jason, have you always wanted to be an entrepreneur?
I think so. Maybe I didn't realize that when I was younger, because I remember being in school and everybody, the teachers would always ask you, what do you want to do when you grow up? And I always felt like I was being forced into picking a career. But in the end, I think it was just because I was always my own thinker and always doing my own things when I was a kid. I used to always build, cabins and also just doing little weird things growing up that ended up being creative. So I think in the long run, as I evolved and became more of a man, and then I realized, yeah, I was probably meant to always be an entrepreneur.
Great. Thank you so much. And I know that Robson and I have appreciated learning this, because once we start to understand the value of looking at situations in life in that fashion, then I think that we can have more hope in terms of how we can impact, at a global level and improve overall well-being of those around us. So thank you very much. Also, this might be an interesting way to look at your life, but I'm curious to know if there's an insult that you have received that you're proud of.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest insults that I would be proud of is the insult that my physical strength, even of overcoming such an injury, even from from the industrial, well, from even from the so-called experts, I would say that based on the injury. My injury, I wouldn't even have been capable of to be independent or even to push a manual wheelchair. Even overcoming those shows that that was an insult alone to them, to anybody to understand the overcoming of the power of mind. That who are those people to underestimate anybody? Insult on my even my intelligence and my ability to diversify massive amounts of information, and and just staying true to my path, going forward, of what I actually believe in and my values.
Thank you for sharing that. And if I separate the two, because they fit together and they're also kind of two situations, what would you say to somebody who is, let's say that they're newly injured, they're in the hospital, they have a sense that there's certain outcomes that they can achieve, but, so-called professionals are perhaps putting, unintentionally placing a lid on them. What would you say to them?
Yeah, I would say, to anybody that's overcome anything, or anybody that puts a cap on your ability to think for yourself, I would never, to them, it's I think it goes under most of what the society has taught us, and the system is they actually try to box everybody into a certain group. So if a medical system is boxing everybody, or how do they really know? I don't think anybody understands how significant or how powerful the body is.
Right. And I know that I can say that I'm grateful that you had the courage to push beyond limits, because your health today and your strength is an example to those of us even that are upright, in terms of us never putting a cap or a limit based on life situations, age, anything like that. So thank you. And then if we move on to the second part of your answer there, I think that what you're talking about, and you can tell me if I'm correct, is the fact that you have an extremely high capacity to research at a depth and a breadth beyond most people, which means that initially, oftentimes that your findings can almost come across as conspiracy, or it can come across as, way out there. And yet what you're saying is that you're grateful that despite maybe negative responses from others, when it comes to what you're able to project forward, whether it's in the form of marketplace changes, societal changes, that you're thankful you don't listen to the naysayers, because you know that your voice is important based on your capacity to digest information and ultimately know where to look. Is this what you're saying?
Yeah, exactly. That's, I'm, I guess you could take me almost as, the joke is like I'm a human AI, but yeah, I'm able to, filter information and do massive research at a capacity of, where most people are unable to, go through hours of information at a time. I have the ability to, do those type of works where I can actually sit in front of the computer for multiple hours and filter, real facts over truth, facts and truth. Yeah.
Yes, thank you. And I know that I can speak for my husband Robson and I, that we're grateful for that, because you have never told us what to think or how to think, but you have always shown us where to look. And as exhausted as sometimes we were working our 16-hour days and building our own businesses and raising our family, I am grateful that I have always taken the time to to think and learn through the different channels that you have shown us. And I do think that is something that we all need to remember, that if we're not pushing beyond it, we will continue to be a society that is majority workers as opposed to thinkers. So thank you, Jay. If you could go back and give your 18-year-old self advice, what would that be?
If I go back to my 18-year-old self, I think my biggest advice would be to myself would be taking mentorship a lot more serious, and taking advice from people that actually have fruit on the tree instead of people with self-entitlements, and then looking, and then also and if I could have been more diversified with my personal funds.
Great, thank you so much. And now if we kind of move to more of like a future oriented way of looking, if there's one place in the world that you would love to live one day, where would that be?
I think if I had to choose one place to live, it would be in an area that a country, or I'm not saying that I'm fleeing this country or going somewhere at this point, but if a place that I would want to live in is an area of community, a country that believes in integrity. They believe in values, and the people, politicians, and everybody wants the best for their people and not just themselves. I don't want to be in a country where the politicians are egotistical people that actually put themselves first before actually their own country.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, and I think sometimes we think that is like an unrealistic goal. While at the same time, I know we Shikudas had the privilege of traveling with you to Mexico, staying there for 6 weeks, and being able to really immerse ourselves in a community of very collaborative entrepreneurs, folks that are primarily fighting for their family unit, fighting to have the right to have sovereignty over their bodies, sovereignty over their businesses, and it was really refreshing, and we appreciated just getting to know a whole new ecosystem of people. So thank you. In this incredible place, I can say that we will certainly go back to is Punta de Mita in Mexico. So speaking of vacations, it doesn't have to be that vacation. What was your favorite vacation that you've ever had?
I think one of my greatest vacations was post-injury. When I traveled to Alaska, and I slept multiple days in one of the biggest glaciers there, and I slept multiple nights just literally dug up a hole in the snow in the glacier, and then slept in my bivy bag and my sleeping bag, looking at the stars and the northern lights over 2 nights, and then getting up in the morning and climbing multiple different sections of the mountains, and going down and then just enjoying the most beautiful part, one of the most beautiful parts of the world ever.
Thank you for sharing that. And when I envision something like that, I know that you have shared with me that something that was very unique about you as a snowboarder was that you were a shredder. So you would take a helicopter up to a mountain and perhaps do a first descent down a mountain. So when I picture the mental and physical process of that, how would you correlate that to how you think about business? You're a successful, continue to be a successful athlete today. You're a successful entrepreneur. You're incredibly intelligent when it comes to the world of Bitcoin. And so just a few areas where I see you excelling beyond most. Tell me a little bit about, this experience you had in Alaska, you being a shredder prior to your injury, and how you think that you're continuing to glean from that today.
Yeah, that's a good question as well. I think the where I glean off it is more if it's to just take in the vision, being my best self. I think that's really what it is. It's like I think even the way you said that, it's like it's more or less like I want the best equipment and the best tools and best people in helping me succeed in life, and that's literally even like based on that. When I was doing extreme sports, I definitely had, I never tried to cut corners. So and I would always, I was always practicing my craft. So I think that's really what it comes down to doing this. I'm always researching and always mastering my craft to be my best self.
Great, thank you. And I do think that is a quality that I have seen in you, is that you are extremely consistent, which those are qualities that are required, and habits. Consistently, I see you as being very consistent in terms of a lot of the boring habits that are required to grow a successful business, to maintain and grow fitness health. So I can relate to what you're saying there. Now, if you can think about the 3 most influential people that have impacted your life, could you share about these folks?
Definitely my dad. My dad. Growing up, we always had a funny thing. My friends would always say, "Oh, let's go see Fred the Wise Man." If they almost looked up at him as a mentor as well growing up, and still to this day, people still call him. And then because he showed me, so many life skills, working on cars, hunting, fishing. And then even, pursue, being on a macro level of, value of money, because my dad actually worked so hard growing up. So, there'd be mornings where he, where they took initiative. It's where I would, if I saved up enough money, they would match the value to anything that I wanted to buy. So, those are great things that he showed me. And then also, I think another person that on a macro level that would have helped me pursue betterness would be Jesse Ballard. He was also, quadriplegic, that got a pro surfer that broke his neck. And then eventually he was able to go surfing again and then his mentality when I seen that at that time at the beginning of my injury was like, wow, if somebody could have such a mindset that they believed in themselves, even though after he got injured from surfing and then wanted to surf again in the ocean as quadriplegic and was able to do it, I was like, wow, if he can do it, obviously I can do it. So that was really amazing to me. And then learning from him. And then the last person would be I think would be Robert Kiyosaki on financials. Robert Kiyosaki, I've read all his books, and he was in my journey of understanding financials was through his book, the Cash Flow Quadrant, and the what is that other book he's actually called? The
Business in the 21st Century.
Business in the 21st Century, and Rich Dad Poor Dad. That was actually the one I was looking for. So those would be my three top influences at this time. Yeah.
Jason, what are 3 books that you could recommend to the listeners today?
3 books that I would recommend people reading. Since financial literacy is one of the biggest things that is a problem in society at this day and age, I would recommend the Fiat Standard book, and then possibly the Bitcoin Standard book. Again, these books are not about specific on fiat or Bitcoin. They're actually books that are written to understand how currency and financial systems actually evolved through history. My next biggest book would probably be the Compound Effect. And the Compound Effect is a book written about how things compound throughout life. Either that, if that's with money, health, everything is a compounding effect, everything that you do. And the last book would be the Cash Flow Quadrant by Robert Kiyosaki, or Rich Dad Poor Dad. And those would be the 3 biggest books that I think that starting out as a business or just understanding how money actually works. So those are the 3 most important books that I think that somebody should read.
Thank you for sharing that, Jay. And I know that your intelligence level, your understanding of how growth patterns take place in terms of influence, I had to have you explain to me what the Metcalfe law is, and you can tell me if I'm understanding this correctly. When we think in the typical linear fashion of how we relate to others, then you're just dealing with one layer upon another. But when we start to understand how to collaborate more in a format where we're working as a village, compounding one another's visions and values and virtues, then the impact zone is not one by one, but it starts to compound in a fashion that you're describing. Am I correct to say this?
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly it. And yeah, it's and then that becomes like everybody working in a community, almost like, a hive of bees, where they all work under, the Fibonacci code and then Metcalfe law. Yeah.
Great, thank you. And Robson and I and our daughters have had the privilege of meeting your father, and I felt impacted by him as well. There's a quiet confidence about him, his ability to pour into his family unit. He seems to find joy in the simplest things, as just taking time, driving his grandkids around, and just being that consistent and predictable force in the McHugh family life. So thank you for sharing that. Jesse Boulard, I have never met him, but I have seen him surf online, and I'm extremely grateful for his courage and decision making, because if you didn't surf, then I would not have learned to surf, nor would my daughters have learned to surf. So thank you, Jesse Boulard. And Robert Kiyosaki, I agree, he's a giant of a man. I know that I often felt very much like the black sheep, just in terms of the way that I look at money, the way that I look at operating in society, until I read his book, until I heard him speak, and I recognized that I was no longer alone. And in many ways, he has led me, and I think you and quite a few of our fellow entrepreneurs into the arenas that we're in. So thank you, Robert Kiyosaki. Now, if we think of, character traits, obviously there's certain qualities and values that drew you to saying that these are your biggest influencers. So now if we look at just simply you, Jason, what would be the characteristics or qualities in individuals that you look for when you're deciding if you will mentor and you will open doors for them when it comes to the work you do with the Goodliife?
There's the qualities I look into somebody is if through vetting process and growing them through the Goodliife would be is never to judge a book by its cover, because you just don't know what that person is going through, and also if they have the patience and time to learn, and that's and are they humble? Are they willing to accept different ways of thinking instead of being in a static mindset, and then wanting to learn learning in the exponential age instead of linear age.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, and I know we have also had conversations just about this exact topic, because I know that in many ways I think that we can initially think that based on how somebody speaks, even their grammar, whether they make you feel charmed, feel good inside, their energy. We can make decisions about folks based on those qualities, but I know that you and I share the mindset that we do not have an ability to preconceive whether somebody has qualities like accountability, matching what they say to what they do. And time will always show through trials whether somebody has a capacity to be loyal, and to go long. And so I know that this is a value that our family shares, that you share, which is why we run in life with you. So in closing, I would just love for you to share, if folks are hoping to get in touch with you, learn more about the Goodliife, how can they reach you online, Jason?
Online, I'm under the Goodliife brand, and the Goodliife brand is with 2 I's, because in team there's multiple I's, not just 1 I. And then also on Twitter. So I'm on Instagram and Twitter, and those are my social media accounts. And other than that, it's through word of mouth.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for your time today. I think that you have already impacted more than 12 people. And I know that you are a great example that no matter what comes our way, we can always search for hope. We can plant our decisions and ensure that the people that we're running with and the circles that we choose to follow will help us reach heights that are far beyond what we think would be possible. So thank you so much for being the example of that. Thank you also for giving me the opportunity to interview you today.
Thank you.
Take care, everyone. See you next time on The Goodliife.